The Gangster's Curse, Chapter 1, The Hollow's Final Toll. Black Hollow had swallowed Vincent whole. The gangsters who survived refused to speak of what had happened that night, but their eyes told stories of horror beyond comprehension. The village had claimed another soul, but the curse was far from broken. As the sun set over the misty ruins of Black Hollow, something stirred beneath the surface of the earth. A new presence had taken form within the village, a figure more sinister than even Don Vittorio Lupo. The spirits had begun whispering a new name in the wind, one that sent shivers down the spines of those who remained. That name was Vincent. The night after his disappearance, strange occurrences plagued the village. The roads twisted in new ways, leading the surviving gangsters into dead ends and illusions. The whispers grew louder, but now there was a voice among them that the villagers recognized. It was Vincent's. His voice was no longer desperate, no longer pleading. It was laughing. Mirrors cracked whenever his name was spoken, and those who had once betrayed him found themselves plagued by horrifying visions. Their own reflections sneered back at them, whispering their darkest sins. The mist curled around their throats like invisible hands, choking them whenever they tried to leave. Doors locked and unlocked by themselves. Objects moved in the dead of night. Some villagers awoke to find their furniture rearranged, their walls covered in cryptic symbols scrawled in blood. Animals refused to enter the village, their howls echoing in the distance, warning of the unnatural force that had taken root. Some of the gangsters tried to flee, but the roads now led them in circles. They ran through the streets, but every path returned them to the heart of the village. The mist thickened, forming twisted faces that whispered secrets they were never meant to hear. One by one, the gangsters vanished into the night. Their bodies were never found, only their screams remained, haunting echoes carried by the wind. Chapter 2, The Ghost King of Black Hollow. For years, Don Vittorio had been the ruler of this haunted town, but with Vincent's soul consumed, a shift occurred in the balance of power. The mist took on a darker hue, pulsing as if alive. The villagers who had tried to leave before no longer found themselves back where they started. Instead, they found themselves inside the chapel, the very spot where Vincent had been taken. There, in the center of the chapel, stood a figure cloaked in darkness. His face was barely visible beneath the shifting shadows, but his presence was undeniable. Vincent had returned, but he was no longer just a man. He had become something far worse. A being neither living nor dead, trapped between realms, a conduit for the curse itself. "You thought it would end?" he whispered to one of the remaining gangsters, a man named Rocco. "No, it only changes. It only grows." With a flick of his hand, the church doors slammed shut, trapping Rocco inside. The screams that followed were ones the village would never forget. That night, the bells of the chapel tolled on their own, though no one had touched them. A blood-red glow seeped from the stained glass windows, and the villagers cowered in their homes as Vincent's laughter echoed through the streets. From that moment on, the village was no longer under Don Vittorio's rule. The mist obeyed a new master, reshaping the village at his will. The buildings groaned and shifted as if alive. The streets reformed in endless spirals, and the once powerful Don found himself a prisoner in his own domain. In his desperation, Don Vittorio gathered the last of his men, hoping to banish Vincent once and for all. But Vincent was no longer just a man. He was the village itself. The gangsters' bullets vanished into the mist, their screams cut short as shadowy hands dragged them into the darkness. Don Vittorio's rule had ended. Vincent's reign had begun. Chapter 3: The Blood Moon Rises. The next full moon approached, but this one was different. The sky turned an unnatural shade of red, bathing the village in a crimson glow. The mist no longer whispered. It roared, carrying the tortured cries of every soul it had claimed. The few gangsters who remained attempted to flee, but now they weren't just being stopped by the village itself. They were being hunted. Figures emerged from the fog, twisted and monstrous, their faces half-decayed, their eyes glowing with an eerie white light. Among them, Vincent led the charge, his form shifting between his past self and something grotesque. His laughter filled the night air as he chased down his former companions, the very men he had once considered allies. One by one they fell, their screams echoing into nothingness. Luca, one of the last, ran through the streets, dodging shadows that stretched toward him like living hands. He reached the village square, only to find the ground beneath him had transformed into a pit of writhing skeletal arms clawing at his legs. Vincent stepped into view, his form shifting between that of a man and a nightmarish specter. "Luca," Vincent whispered, stretching out a clawed hand. "Come home." Luca's breath hitched as he saw the faces of those they had betrayed, the dead gangsters who had disappeared before them. They reached for him, pulling him into the abyss. He struggled, screamed, but it was useless. The village had claimed him, just as it had claimed the others. Chapter 4: The Final Stand. Only one man remained: Luca, a gangster who had always believed he was untouchable. Desperation led him to the village's chapel, the last place anyone had seen Elias. He had a single chance: to find the source of the curse and destroy it before it consumed him too. Inside, the church was no longer a place of sanctuary. The walls bled, the floor pulsed like a heartbeat, and the altar had been replaced by a massive, grotesque throne. One that Vincent now sat upon. "You think you can stop this?" Vincent's voice was both human and monstrous, layered with the echoes of every soul the curse had claimed. "You are already part of it." Luca raised his gun, but Vincent merely smiled. "Go on," he whispered. "Pull the trigger. See what happens." Luca did. The gunshot echoed through the empty village. But Vincent did not fall. Instead, he laughed, a deep, guttural sound that made Luca's skin crawl. The mist surged forward, swallowing Luca whole. The air became thick with whispers, voices from centuries past joining Vincent's. Luca's screams faded, replaced by a new sound, the slow rhythmic toll of the chapel's bell. A bell that should not have rung. Chapter 5. The cycle continues. The next morning, the village was quiet once more. The mist had receded, the sky was a dull gray, and the last traces of the gangsters had disappeared. In the center of town, 2 playing cards lay on the cobblestone, an ace of spades and a joker, their edges stained red. A new traveler entered Black Hollow that day, seeking shelter from the road. He knocked on the door of the inn, oblivious to the fate that awaited him. The door creaked open on its own. A candle flickered in the window, though no one had lit it. And deep within the village, in the shadows of the chapel, Vincent's hollow laughter echoed once more. The cycle would never end. But now, it had a new king.